Ross Clark, columnist at The Sun. He's written a piece this morning in The Sun about Ed Miliband. Finally, families and businesses have realised that Miliband's unhinged net zero policies are condemning us to poverty and industrial decline. We talked about this yesterday, a piece on the front page of The Times, in which it said that more and more people are now beginning to realise that the whole net zero scam is indeed a scam, and much of what the warnings are about it have been massively exaggerated. Ross, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Hi.
It's really rather good news, this, isn't it? I mean, I was partially tongue-in-cheek claiming credit for this yesterday because I thought, well, clearly people have been listening to talk for so long now that they've finally managed to understand that this biggest scam of all time is, in fact, net zero.
Yeah, I mean, for years, Miliband and other government ministers, of Conservatives as well as Labour, by the way, have sort of comforted themselves on sort of polls which suggest that, majority of British public are behind net zero and so on. And what they failed totally to realise is that people's opinions change very sharply when they are presented with the real-world consequences of net zero targets. And if you look at that Times poll, as only 6% of people would be happy to see higher energy bills to pay for net zero. Only 20% would be happy to see higher taxes to pay for net zero. And the number of people who would be happy to see petrol and diesel cars banned, that again has plummeted. Support for net zero is collapsing as the consequences become clear. And Ed Miliband is just so far behind the curve on this. He still thinks that, the nation is foursquare behind his plan to decarbonise the electricity grid by 2030 and the rest of the country economy by 2050.
Yeah, I mean, it is extraordinary, isn't it, that no matter how much we try to kind of strip it away and change it, though, that Keir Starmer seems incapable of doing so. I mean, he tried to get Ed Miliband moved to the Department of Housing in his reshuffle last Friday, and Miliband just went, I'm not going. I want to stay where I am.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, Keir Starmer's supposed to be ruthless with his cabinet reshuffles and, look how he dealt with Jeremy Corbyn when, over anti-Semitism and so on. He had this sort of ruthless image. But then when it came to Ed Miliband, he apparently told Ed Miliband, I want to move you to housing secretary, and Ed Miliband said no, and Starmer said all right then, and that was it.
Well, such leadership. I mean, I can't imagine. Yeah, I mean, the other thing about your piece is that, as you say, there are so many other countries which have embraced renewable energy to some extent, but they haven't gone sort of outright mad. I mean, we're buying in, as I say, to the point of boredom, oil and gas from Norway, which is being plundered from the seabed, literally 2 feet away from which the places we've just shut down.
Yeah, and I mean, there's one expression which really irritates me, which crops up again and again from government ministers and other lobbyists in the Green movement, is referring to something they call the race to net zero. And there is no global race to net zero. It's Britain sort of seems to be lumbering along by itself, tripping over its bootlaces, while the rest of the world, as you say, it's not that the rest of the world is not sort of interested in renewable energy at all. There's a huge investment in it in China, but there's a very, very big difference when it comes to China, the US, and virtually every other country around the world. They want to reduce their carbon emissions. They set they've sort of nodded along with some of these targets, but in practice they are not sacrificing their economies to achieve any kind of net zero target, and that's what we are doing. Look at Jim Ratcliffe earlier this week announcing he's withdrawing £3 billion of investment from Britain because of windfall taxes on oil, gas, and he's going to invest in the US instead. It's this quite obvious direct transfer of wealth from Britain to other countries that is being caused by this net zero drive.
It is absolutely extraordinary, isn't it? Ross, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Ross Clark, Ed's got zero clue is the headline on the page 10 piece this morning. Finally, families and businesses have realised that Miliband's unhinged net zero policies are condemning us to poverty and industrial decline. Extraordinary stuff.